Adam Caplan, he's been on the show plenty of times. Inside the Birds podcast, he does that with our own Jeff Mosher and Billy Osborne. You can hear him do that. And on SiriusXM NFL Radio, and he also had the news yesterday. Desean Jackson, Adam, is coming back to Philadelphia. Did Howie Roseman feel like this was something that he went after, or did Jackson's actions kind of, hey, I want to go back to Philly? How does Desean end up back in Philadelphia?
Yeah, so and what we're going to do is, we've got our podcast next week. Actually, it's going to drop on Monday, I think. We'll have the full details on really what happened with Desean. But let me take you a little bit inside what happened here. I'll give you a little bit of a snippet. First of all, this is not the first time the Eagles actually tried to trade for Desean over the past year, Mike. They've called the Bucs before, as other teams have, and he was not available. But this time around, Howie Roseman got his man. They did ask him for a pay cut. I'll have details exactly what the pay cut entailed, but he refused it. And I give Howie Roseman credit. When he wants someone, he gets them. And how many times last season did we watch the Eagles and say, where's the deep passing game? Well, Mike Wallace, as you know, Mike, got hurt game 2 against Tampa Bay. There went the downfield passing game. So now they've got the most electrifying deep threat in the game, and they've got Desean Jackson back. Man, I cannot believe it's been 5 years, but yes, it has been 5 years.
5 years that they really didn't have the deep threat. Now, they didn't have the deep threat like this. They did have Torrey Smith, and I think people look at Smith and say, well, his numbers weren't very good. But, Adam, his presence was there, right? And it was something they lacked last year. This is Torrey Smith, but a much, much more talented and bigger weapon.
Yes. Now, look, when you look at Desean, you look at him, you go, okay, he's not the most physical guy, but you're right. This is the most dominant deep threat in the game, really. I can't remember. I'd have to go back some. Who would have been a better, deeper threat than I've seen in my 20 years cover the National Football League. And when you've got someone who could tilt the field, I mean, you saw what Carson Wentz. I don't know if you saw his tweet was fantastic.
I did. Yep.
You just go out. How about I just throw it deep and you go get it? Kind of thing like that. That's true. And then what Zach Ertz said. Zach Ertz is like, look, we'll take care of the middle. You take care of the deep stuff. So we know it's coming here, and it's coming. And you know that it's all about throwing the deep ball, and that's exactly what you're getting here with this particular play. And I really look forward to seeing what Desean can do. Though he does turn 33 this fall during the season, I don't think he's lost anything as a deep threat.
Yeah, actually, he turns 33 in December, so he'll play most of the season at 32. And Adam, he led the league in yards per catch last year. So if he drops off, it would be a drastic drop off because he was still the best in the game at what he does. Just as of last year, ask the Eagles in Week 2.
Yeah, oh my God, that was ugly, man. It's funny. I wonder if Howie wrote after that game or during that game, get Desean, because my goodness gracious, you're right. You're absolutely right. He torched them, and Desean's numbers. He had a couple really good games with the Redskins, and obviously with the Bucs over the years. Yeah,
and let me ask your opinion on how this helps Ertz. It seems like they're going to keep Aguilar, and how this helps Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, I could just tell you it's not a lock that Nelson will be on the team this season. I don't put percentages or anything. If I had to guess, I would say better chance that he does than he doesn't. Tomorrow's the deadline for his base salary becoming fully guaranteed at just about $9.4 million. The thing is, if they did move him or decline to pay it and cut him, where you're getting your slot receiver, because don't forget, Mike, Nelson could play outside as well. He started his career as an outside receiver. So I think we have to be careful here of trying to get rid of Nelson Aguilar. Now, I don't know that they would sign to an extension right now because of what they're paying Alshon Jeffrey and what they're paying Desean. And by the way, Deshaun's contract has got a 2-year structure, not a 1, so it's almost certain he'll be with the team in 2020.
Adam Caplan, SiriusXM NFL Radio. By the way, free agency doesn't actually open till tomorrow, but a lot of stories unfolding here, Adam. Let's go and get your take. Nick Foles, big money, going to Jacksonville. Here in Philly, obviously, people love him, but do you view him as an 88? I know he earned the money based on that Super Bowl MVP, but did Jacksonville overspend on Foles?
Well, here's the thing. We outlined on our podcast last week, I said that Foles will sign a multiple-year deal, will not be a 1-year deal. As a matter of fact, my sense is they probably won't draft a quarterback in the first round unless there's one they absolutely love. I think that Nick Foles buys them time for at least 2 seasons, Mike. Now, your point is fair. what is he really in reality? Is he as good as Kirk Cousins? Well, the difference between Kirk Cousins and Nick Foles is Kirk Cousins has never played as well as for a short period of time as Nick Foles did. But Nick Foles has never done it for a full season like Kirk Cousins has done. Now you would say, okay, well, Kirk Cousins basically got $25 million a year, and Nick's getting 22 and change. So maybe he should get a little bit less because he's never done it. Most people believed around the league he'd get around $20 million a year. So his agent, Justin Schulman, beat that number, did a great job, a 4-year deal. But the argument is, Mike, how do you do this deal when you know that they have no competition? I mean, it was not a secret. No one was after. The only team I was told that was in it on a very low level were the Giants. And I don't even know if they made an offer. So, yes, I would say that they overpaid a little bit. But, look, Nick will not be the problem with this football team. The problem is the receiver core, the running game, and their issues on the right side of the offensive line.
A couple more with Adam Caplan here as free agency tomorrow, but we've seen a lot of big moves. Antonio Brown obviously traded 3 and a 5. He gets the new deal. He really reset the market out there for Julio Jones and some of these other guys who are coming up. I can't imagine that owners are thrilled with what just happened.
Well, no, but the way that he did it, Mike, the way that he talked himself out of Pittsburgh is not great. But you know what? The Steelers, in the way they do contracts, they make players wait till their last year or wait till it expires, and that you're under that sort of regime with the Steelers. This is the way they do things. So Brown used his leverage was to make them get rid of him, and he did, and it worked. It's just sad that he had to do that. Now we'll see how he behaves with Pittsburgh, with Oakland, and now that when you go around the league. When you see Tyreek Hill, he probably would be, he's equivalent to Desean Jackson. He actually has better versatility than Desean. To me, if he doesn't get a minimum of $17 million, he's got to be in Antonio Brown's deal. You know why? Because Antonio Brown turns 31, and Tyreek Hill is in his mid-20s. He absolutely deserves to beat that deal, and I believe he will.
Malik Jackson coming to Philadelphia, and they lose Jernigan, they gave up Bennett. And they replaced not Bennett yet, but they did get Jackson in. How do you find Jim Schwartz's new toy at tackle?
Yeah, so Haloti Ngata's up. Jernigan, they declined his option. I'm told they're leaving the door open. If he wants to come back as a backup at a low number, they would look at it. But Jernigan's looking for a better deal. Yeah, he's a very good football player. Signed the second biggest contract for defensive tackle in NFL history 3 years ago. Then, of course, Fletcher Cox beat it. But really good football player. They've got, their front four when healthy between Barnett when he comes back from his injury, Cox, obviously, and Jackson and Graham, who signed his extension. And with Chris Long, he's on the roster for now. Now, the issue is going to the draft, Mike. They absolutely need defensive ends. They probably need to draft more than one, probably 2 of them, 2 developmental ends. They need to get younger. That's the other thing is this defensive line, for the most part, is older, and they need to get younger there.
I got Jordan Hicks walking out the door here, and you look at that linebacker spot. Really, Bradham's the only guy they got.
Yeah, and I told our listeners on our podcast last week, Jordan Hicks most likely would not be back. You'd find a better deal elsewhere. I was shocked. I got to tell you, I'd heard he would get over $6 million. I was not expecting the deal that he got. I mean, for a guy that, as we all know, has had a lot of injuries. Great kid, by the way. Unfortunately, the Achilles injury. He's just not the same player he once was, and now we'll see a year later how he does. But, yeah, so right now the strong side linebacker job is open, and so is the middle linebacker job. And if we were starting today, Grugier Hill would start, but that doesn't really mean anything. That job really is up for grabs, so the Eagles have to do some work at the linebacker position.
Adam Caplan at Caplan NFL, SiriusXM NFL Radio, Inside the Birds podcast with our Jeff Mosher. Mosher will be back on Thursday's show. Adam, obviously Jason Peters as well, and, I guess you look around and say, look, he might be older, he might be slipping, but that position in the league, he's still probably one of the best.
Yeah, my only issue, Mike, is, and this is what we were talking about, Jeff Mosher and I, actually to Billy as well, we were like, look, bringing Peters back is not the worst idea, but you can't, at what point do you say enough of him leaving games early? And that's the problem. He left at least a half a dozen games early for whatever reason. And, Vaitai didn't play at a particularly high level, and they're not ready to give Jordan Mailata the ball yet, to hand him the job, so that's why they brought him back. This has got to be it. I mean, and don't forget, Brandon Brooks is coming back from a torn Achilles. Kelsey's over 30. Again, Mike, this team is getting older, not younger. They need to get younger.
Yeah, and that's obviously, in your opinion, they're getting older. Roseman sees it? Is this Jackson saying, let's take one more shot before we have to sign Wentz to the big money?
Well, no. Look, they could, if they want to, they could sign Wentz to an extension this offseason. It's not out of the question, as I understand it. It's not something that's on the radar right now, but it's not out of the question. I just think overall, if you go through the roster, their safeties are older. And then we know McLeod's 28. He's coming off a torn ACL, I'm told. Jenkins is over 30. The only positions where they're really young are corner, really. Corner and tight end is really where they're young. Other than that, they're not super young, and that's something that's going to be an issue going forward.
Last one for you, Adam. Running back. Big names out there, Ingram, Coleman, obviously Bell, or do they probably go draft?
Yeah, the only name that I see happening, if the numbers are right, they'll pursue Bell. Not Bell. They'll never get there with Bell. It would be Coleman. Ironically, the same agent represents both of those running backs. Coleman's a guy they like because he has versatility. Unbelievably explosive. He doesn't need to carry the ball 20 times or 15 times, probably 12 or 13 times a game. And then you could use Corey Clement to back him up. And you got Wendell Smallwood on the roster. I don't see J.J. coming back, barring a major surprise. So Coleman's on the radar, but if it doesn't happen, Mike, I think you're right. It'll go into the draft.
SiriusXM NFL Radio, Inside the Birds podcast with our own Jeff Mosher and Billy Osborne, and at Caplan NFL for the latest. By the way, free agency opens tomorrow. It hasn't opened quite yet, but a lot of moves, and Adam Caplan's been all over a lot of them, and he was kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thanks, pal.
Thank you.